Jake Paul and Mike Tyson now have been suspended from boxing after controversial fight in Texas.
Jake Paul has been arrested, and let's be honest, it was bound to happen sooner or later. Karma finally caught up with him. Did he really think he could keep pulling scams without paying the price? This time, Jake messed with the wrong crowd. Boxing fans have long memories, and they don't let things slide easily.
The thing was scripted. The whole thing was just a money grab. And for a lot of...
Jake, this isn't your TikTok fan base we're talking about. These are boxing fans, and they won't hesitate to knock your ego down to size. They'll have you rethinking your entire playbook of scams in no time. Let's not pretend this scripted boxing drama is your only misstep. Your track record is like a scam artist's highlight reel: rigged fights, shady deals, and endless cash grabs disguised as influence. But now, the tables have turned. Everyone you've wronged is finally getting their moment of justice. Jake Paul? More like Joke Paul. This time, the punchline's on you, and honestly, it's pretty satisfying to watch.
Kid who, used to be a YouTuber, and he's worked hard to learn boxing. He really has. He's come along, but really, he's still not.
Let's take a trip down memory lane. Jake Paul's messy path to fame didn't start with this latest fiasco. It goes way back to his Vine days. Back then, he wasn't just obnoxious, he was downright harmful. We're talking about accusations of bullying, blackmail, and even police reports linking him to cyberbullying so severe it allegedly led to suicide attempts. Truly inspiring behavior, right? Fast forward to 2017, and we get Team 10, Jake's so-called YouTube collective. But let's be real, it wasn't a collective, it was a nightmare. Members had their phones taken, their privacy invaded, and their lives micromanaged. It was basically a cult, just one with terrible merch. And yet, Jake still complains about people hurting his feelings. The irony? Absolutely mind-blowing. The chaos didn't stop there. Remember that infamous mansion? The one where neighbors called the police 47 times over everything from explosions to reckless stunts? One girl even got hurt during one of Jake's wild antics. But don't worry, Jake handled it the only way he knows how, throwing money at the problem. No apologies, no accountability, just hush cash. Classic Jake. Meanwhile, as he wreaked havoc on the neighborhood, he was also busy faking his success. Turns out, up to 40% of his views came from bots. So, much like his boxing career, his online fame was just another illusion.
Hey, Jake Paul's fans got screwed while he got rich, but I guess anything to get that bag, right? We'll see how that excuse holds up in court.
But why stop at faking views when you can scam kids out of their allowances? Enter the so-called financial freedom movement, Jake's pandemic-era cash grab. For a few $100s, he promised kids they'd become millionaires without ever leaving their rooms. And what did they actually get? Recycled internet guides and stolen tips straight from legitimate business coaches. Meanwhile, Jake walked away $2 million richer in just 3 months. Honestly, his speed at scamming people is almost impressive. If scamming were a sport, he'd finally earn a title belt. Then came the crypto scams. Jake's love for shady pump and dump tokens became his new hustle. While he made millions, his fans were left broke and betrayed. Pumping up worthless coins and cashing out on his supporters? That's Jake's real legacy.
Dumb, as you guys probably think he is, but he's also not as smart as he thinks he is. So, even though Jake Paul is going to try to hide his various crypto accounts...
Let's talk about the Do token scandal. Jake secretly owned 100% of the tokens, hyped them up like they were the next big thing, and then dumped them, walking away with $10 million while his fans were left broke and furious. And who could forget his NFT debacle? A $4 million cash grab that disappeared as fast as his fanbase when the FBI started sniffing around. As for Jake's venture into boxing, it was never about glory or respect. Nope, his foray into the sport was just another shady chapter in his career of cons. Take his underground matches in Los Angeles, for example. These weren't fights, they were bare-knuckle cash machines, with bets hitting $1 million per match. Jake turned the ring into his own chaotic casino. The cost? 5 fighters left with life-altering injuries, and 1 participant straight up vanished. That's not a legacy, it's a true crime series just waiting to be filmed.
Jake Paul's fans got screwed while he got rich, but I guess anything to get that bag, right? We'll see how that excuse holds up in court.
Why stop at underground fights when you can rig the official ones? Enter the Anderson-Gibb fight in 2020. A spectacle is staged as Jake's rags-to-riches story. Rumor has it, Gibb was promised a $500,000 bonus to take a dive in the first round. Why rely on skill when offshore accounts are buzzing louder than a Vegas slot machine? But the cash flow didn't stop there. Millions were allegedly funneled out before the fight even ended. And just when it seemed Jake couldn't sink lower, 2021 brought us the Ben Askren fiasco. A staggering $30 million in fake bets flooded the market, only for Askren to fold to a punch so feeble it couldn't topple a paper bag. Rumors of rigging quickly turned into deafening accusations. Still, Jake kept strutting, confident that his bloated bank account could take down any claim, no matter how damning.
A Sacred Devils promotional scam, which you can see right here, is worth $139,000, which puts him on the board.
And then there are Jake's extracurricular activities, the ones involving private planes and suspicious pit stops in cartel territory. Yep, you heard that right, cartel connections. Jake's so-called training camps in Mexico conveniently included detours through regions infamous for banned substances. Coincidence? Only if you believe in fairy tales. Let's not overlook the 3 convicted drug smugglers on his team. Seems like Jake's real training wasn't for boxing but for dodging the law while staging his next con, but the piece de resistance? Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Oh, this one's a masterpiece of fraud. A leaked script revealed the whole event as nothing more than a staged clown show pretending to be a legitimate fight. At this point, Jake's career isn't about fitness or boxing. It's about packing as many scams as possible into one lifetime of chaos.
At home, and you turned on Netflix that night, you're like, holy, I'm about to see the greatest live sporting event of all time.
Tyson was reportedly told to pull his punches, moving slower than a tortoise in quicksand, all to make Jake look halfway decent. This is Mike Tyson we're talking about, the same legend who used to knock out opponents in seconds. Sure, that sounds believable. His training videos showed a sharp, lethal fighter, but in the ring, he looked like he'd forgotten what sport he was playing. It was embarrassing, a masterclass in mediocrity, all staged to boost Jake's delusion of being a real boxer. The leaked script? Even uglier than Jake's boxing technique. Every move was choreographed to paint him as some kind of prodigy. This wasn't boxing, it was bad theater. And the fallout? Oh, it's a spectacle of its own. Both Jake and Tyson are now tangled in lawsuits, with the International Boxing Association breathing down their necks. Tyson, who pocketed a measly $20 million, is accused of throwing the fight to protect Jake's fragile ego. Meanwhile, Netflix, which streamed this disaster, is facing a class action lawsuit. Fans who paid their hard-earned money for what was hyped as a historic match got buffering issues, crashes, and a fight so bad it practically begged to be pirated. Now those fans want their money back, and honestly, who can blame them?
Just got Netflix sued. Got a big problem with this stream.
Internet had a field day, of course. For hardcore boxing fans who expected a clash of titans, they were instead served a lukewarm pantomime, the world's most expensive reality show. Memes flooded social media, with Tyson mocked for searching for his lost keys mid-fight and Jake roasted for posing rather than defending. If turning a sport into a comedy act were an Olympic event, Jake would sweep all the gold medals, but Jake wasn't content with just ruining the sport. He had to bankrupt fans too. His alleged scams and staged fights have cost fans over $200 million. And when the FBI came knocking, oh, the treasure trove they found. Hard drives loaded with evidence of shady transactions worth $50 million, offshore money laundering schemes, and doping scandals big enough to fill Netflix documentaries for years. Jake Paul isn't just a fraud, he's a walking, talking crime syndicate, dragging anyone dumb enough to associate with him into his swirling vortex of deceit.
Publicly tagged on OpenSea as the problem child, which is one of Jake's favorite names for himself. So this is kind of promising, right? You've got this wallet receiving $200,000 in SafeMoon, and then it sending that money over to something called the problem child on OpenSea.
And let's not forget how Tyson, the baddest man on the planet, willingly stepped into Jake's circus, branding himself as a co-conspirator in the biggest scam boxing has ever seen. His once pristine legacy now lies in tatters, smudged by his association with Jake Paul, the king of influencer fraud. Together, they've shown that influencer boxing isn't just a joke, it's a disease, and Jake Paul
and Mike Tyson now have been suspended from boxing after controversial fight in Texas.
Paul is the virus spreading it. Somehow through all this, people still called him a boxing prodigy. A prodigy of what exactly? Fraud, manipulation, exploitation. Jake Paul isn't a fighter. He's a scam artist who found an audience gullible enough to believe his lies. Every fight, every deal, every dollar is just another chapter in the book of how to fool the world for fun and profit. So Jake Paul getting arrested isn't just justice, it's karma, and honestly it's been a long time coming. If there's any silver lining in this mess, It's that maybe, just maybe, people will finally see him for what he truly is: a fraud in gloves, nothing more.